So hello everyone, brave people who are awake after yesterday's dancing. Nice to see you all. So I will just explain the rule of game, how we are proceeding today. So we are three speakers. I am in two roles. I am moderator and also a speaker. At first we will have Melanie. She will give like more overview regarding this topic. And then it's me and Kenya. We will give like specific case studies. You know, when we received instructions how we need to proceed, they were with red letters, don't talk about yourself. This is what people don't like. So me and Kenya, we will talk only about ourselves. But with a focus at like the lessons we've learned because of our experiences. And I also would like to ask you to think during this while we are speaking, because we would like also you to talk. And especially, we didn't find any example of a person, journalist, who is a freelancer. So if there is anyone who is a freelancer, we would be happy if you could also be able to share your experience. How do you deal if you don't have this background, like editorial behind you? And also maybe there is someone who could talk about if you have experienced, like as organization, online harassment or online attacks. How do you deal in such situations? This is something we were thinking which is important, but we don't have in our own experiences, or like maybe more theoretical approach. So this is kind of homework for you while we are talking. And now, and one more thing regarding questions, I think we all three will speak, and then we sit down, and then we can talk with you, answer to your questions, and also listen your experience. That's our plan for now. So thank you very much, and Melanie will start with her presentation.
Thank you so much, Inga. Is this on? Hi, everyone. Good morning. So we were, as Inga was saying, given the brief that this is a learning conference, and what we should try to do in our presentations is to impart some practical advice and tips for you to all take away. And so I really took this to heart, and so hopefully you will forgive me for a very wordy slide presentation. But what I was hoping to do is that anyone who is interested in looking at how to introduce protocols and policies for online harassment and dealing with online harassment in your newsroom can take this away and use this as a starting point for this, for discussion in the newsroom, whether you're an editor, whether you're a journalist, or a more senior manager, to get the conversation started and to have a starting point. So let me see if I can work this clicker. These really are practical tips, and I'll take you through first some concepts around, what is online harassment. I think we all know this anecdotally, but it always helps to start from the beginning and share only a tiny little bit about who I am and my organization, so you know who's up here. So I work for the World Association of News Publishers. We are an industry association that represents the global press. We have members in over 120 countries, and we represent 18,000 publications around the world. Our mandate really is to promote and support a strong and healthy, and as part of that, financially healthy, independent press. We do a lot of work to support the financial viability of media. We do a lot of work in gender equality, diversity, and inclusion. We do work on social impact, content, editorial quality, ethics, and we also do a lot of work on safety. And this is where this would fall in. Really, online harassment is a safety issue, which we'll get into more. And we have a lot of partners that help us do this work. We have been working in this space for over 70 years. Through support from external funders as well as our members. Who am I? I've been doing this for 2 decades. I've really started out in the press freedom sort of division, gotten more and more involved in media development and gender equality and diversity. I spent some time in the corporate sector working with Canadian organizations to improve their diversity and inclusion records. And on that, and I guess from that experience, also launched one of the largest programs now working on gender and media equality in the sector, which is called Women in News. It's active in 18 countries around the world. We work to increase women's leadership and voices in the news. Something that I got very involved in, and didn't really think I would be working so much in this space, but once we started talking with women journalists, once we started talking with women editors, it became very, very clear that the media industry has a harassment problem. We talked a lot more about sexual harassment in the newsroom, online harassment increasingly, and this became much more of a focus point. So this is an area that I've been focusing on for the last couple of years, and specifically working with newsrooms on how to build policies, procedures, protocols to actually address this from an organizational standpoint. What you can expect from this presentation, I'm just going to reflect a little bit on the problem and impact of online harassment, some actions to take if you are being harassed online. Again, my colleagues are going to be talking much more specifically on their personal experiences and what they've done practically as case studies. What I will be focusing on is right here, which is how can newsrooms and newsroom managers respond and prepare for online harassment, because it really is a matter of preparing and responding and knowing how to do that, because as anyone knows who's been in the industry and who's been active online, there's a very strong likelihood that you're going to have some sort of harassment online, and as a media organization, you need to know how to deal with that. And finally, I will just share a list of resources and references that you can refer to. There are so many organizations that are doing great work in this space, and I've really leaned on that liberally to inform this presentation. So there you'll have a one-stop shop for anything that you would like to access for more information. So first of all, just reasserting, I think, what is the obvious, but the newsroom or the news media industry really has a harassment problem. In the work that we have done on sexual harassment and research, we, in 2020, did a survey of more than 2,000 individual journalists, and the result was that of that group, over 40% had been verbally or physically harassed in the newsroom or while out on beats. This was a study conducted in 20 different countries: Latin America, Africa, the Arab region, as well as Southeast Asia. The link is in this survey, in this presentation, if you want to see more. It very much is a problem, and it is a really gendered problem, and I think men certainly are also the target of harassment, but there's a disproportionate number of women and non-binary individuals that are the target. 2022, this is also a really informative research piece that came out about online harassment, specifically surveying 900 individuals. And of those 900 individuals, the majority were women, nearly 3/4 of whom had reported to having been harassed online. So very clear, the numbers are there, the stats are there, this is an industry-wide problem. Quick definition of what is online harassment, and this was a definition put together by PEN America, another great organization that is doing a lot of work in this space. Online harassment or abuse is defined as pervasive or severe targeting of an individual or group online through harmful behavior. Severe because even a single incident of abuse, such as a death threat or the publishing of a home address, can have serious consequences. Pervasive because while some incidents of online abuse, such as insults or spam, might not rise to the level of harassment, that steady drip, drip, drip of harassment can have really pervasive consequences. Online includes anything to do with emails, social media platforms, messaging apps, blogging platforms, and comment sections. There's the source below. A little bit on the impact of online harassment. First of all, it's a safety issue. And a really scary set of statistics also brought out from the 2022 report from ICFJ and UNESCO. 20% of women journalists have been attacked or abused offline in connection with online abuse. That's a 1 in 5 figure, which is a really scary figure. Offline violence often starts with online violence. It's a press freedom issue. Self-censorship is a natural response. If you're being attacked online, you're less likely to actually put your voice and opinion online. You might even stop pursuing a certain story because of online harassment and knowing the abuse that you will get. So it's a press freedom issue. It's also an equality issue. 1 in 3 women journalists have considered leaving the industry due to online threats and attacks. This has a much larger impact, of course. It reduces women's contribution to the news industry and suppresses their voices. And it's also a financial issue. Stress from protracted online abuse can lead to reduced output of the individual. It puts an enormous amount of strain as well on the organization, especially when cases spiral. And of course, if you're a freelancer and you're not able to work or not pursuing a certain story, you're not going to make money. Very quickly, looking at what journalists can do if you're being harassed. And again, these are just basic responses: blocking, muting, reporting, seek help. The focus of what I'm going to be talking about is very much on the organization, because we feel firmly that as an organization, if a journalist faces online harassment because of the work that they're doing, the onus is on the organization to launch a response. It should not be on the individual to have to defend themselves, to have to go after their attacker, their abuser. It really should be within the organization. And the best way to actually do this is to have a policy and a set of protocols so that you as a manager know how to do this. You don't want to be making game day decisions. You want to have a place that you can refer to the manual. A standalone harassment policy will help you do that. We did an anecdotal survey of over 230 of our media managers within our network, within the WANIFRA and Women in News Network, asking them just anecdotally, do you have an online harassment policy? And over 70% said either no or they did not know. So that's not a good starting point in terms of ensuring that you have the correct organizational responses. A couple of reasons why it's important to have an online harassment policy. First one, when an incident is reported to a manager, the person who has been on the receiving end will expect and deserves a prompt and decisive response. It's important to be able to refer to the manual. As I said before, you really don't want to be making decisions when you're in the middle of a crisis. And it's also extremely important for all parties to know the extent of the response from the organization and also the limitations. And it's important to be clear and to communicate what that is, how much the organization can actually go and do to defend and to support your journalists, as well as freelancers who are contributing on stories. And a standalone policy also really communicates how seriously the organization takes the matter of online harassment. And it sends an important message that this is treated seriously, both internally as well as externally. Very quickly, because this is a question that we often receive is, well, we have an online policy, it's our social media policy, and this mentions that you should have good behavior online. That's not enough. In our opinion, you've got a social media policy which outlines the rules and regulations of how you should be putting forward the brands and the values reflecting the brand and the values of the organization, whereas an online harassment policy specifically addresses incidents of online harassment and also provides guidelines for reporting and preparing for such incidents. So I'm going to go through this quickly, but these are the steps to take if you do want to start to look at how to actually address this from an organizational standpoint. First one is you want to understand the problem in your organization. You can conduct an online anonymous survey, see how big the issue is amongst your staff. You can include freelancers as well to get a sense of the scale of the problem. It's also really important to ensure that those results are actually distributed to your staff and to ask a question about confidence in the organization's ability to respond to harassment. The second, you've got to discuss with your C-suite, legal and HR, how far you're going to go. There's so many different steps you can take. I'll touch upon a few here, but it's really important to know how little and how much you can and will do to support your team. This could be, again, making statements that can have a sort of reverse effect sometimes, psychosocial support, leave time, and also to have somebody who's monitoring it so the individual is not having to monitor their own accounts, to really remove that problem and that onus again so that they're not having to track this. Third, develop an informal and formal reporting process. And this can be as simple as setting up an email address that people can send messages to. Even better is to put together an online form. Again, this was taken from the wonderful report. It's over 400-page report on this topic produced by ICFJ and UNESCO. But detailing some of the details here that you should put in this. You want to be tracking dates. You want to be uploading actual snapshots and add on any sort of details around the harasser, Again, you can refer to this, so I won't go through each one, but this helps to document it and also to, I think, share. It's important you see at the bottom here the impact that it's having on your professional work, any sort of psychological issues that you might be having, so that you can start to track this and the HR and your editors can track this. The fourth thing, create the online harassment policy. I've shared why we think it's important to have this, but again, key things to have in there are definitions, what constitutes online harassment, what the responses should be, and also what the protocols are. What are the steps to take to actually report and document? 5, these are different types of responses that you can take. Again, you want to monitor abuse. It is really, and I know that with a lot of media organizations, resources are tight. Some organizations have gone so far as to have online safety editors. If you don't have those types of supports available, perhaps within the HR department, someone with training can actually take this and monitor the harassment that's happening so that the individual on the receiving end does not have to. It doesn't need to be a new figure that's brought in and cost line, but it is really helpful to have one centralized person who can be tracking these things and who has a direct line to senior management and to editor so that when things need to be escalated, it can be done clearly and quickly. You want to be doing a digital security review for the person who's on the receiving end. Are their accounts secure? Is there anywhere where they have addresses or personal information that can be found online that could be used against them? So to do an audit, there are external security companies that can do that, but there's also many tips online on how to actually do this, and online programs you can look at to access to find out sort of all the weak points and how to strengthen your security settings. We really recommend also just delivering security training, digital security training to your teams, and online harassment training as well. And really important also is that whatever step you do decide to take, to consult with the person on the receiving end throughout so that they feel both supported as well as they understand and can provide input onto what they would like to have happen, what they feel is necessary. Again, here are some very specific actions that you can take. It's really up to the media organization to decide what they can, what should, and how far they can go to provide support. The last piece that I want to focus a little bit on is the risk assessment. And this is a fantastic tool that was created by IPI. So I've used this very liberally, but I think it's a great starting point to build out what your risk assessment will be in terms of how to define what your action should be. There are 3 separate categories that IPI has defined. One is physical, psychological, and reputational. And the first one, of course, is the risk that an attack will turn into a physical attack. You want to be looking at the overall security environment. I think your reaction is probably going to be quite different if you're living in a context where there's absolute impunity. And Kenya will be talking a little bit more about that. That's different from other contexts. So, of course, this is very situational. The risk of a physical attack, based on if the aggressor is known, where the attack's coming from. The public nature of the journalist's work. Are they high profile? The nature of the story? How exposed are they? The second is risk of psychological harm. And this comes down as well to, what is the nature of the harassment, the photos being shared, the types of threats, is it sexual violence? How much of an impact is that going to have on the person's psychological well-being? Messages that indicate stalking behavior, another red flag, and strength of the target's overall support network. Third is the risk of reputational damage. And this is, really looks also into the context. This is a highly polarized context that you're operating in terms of media environment. Potential for the smears that are happening online to be taken credibly by the public, and the volume and reach of the attacks and the smear campaigns and how widespread that's been. And I know anecdotally there are so many out there, and I think my colleagues will be sharing some of these as well. And this is just a starting point, but again, please, go to the link there if you want to learn more about how to add to that and how to put this into a framework. It's extremely, again, helpful to have a manual to refer to when you're trying to decide how to respond as an editor or a senior manager. When to escalate to the police, there's no set time or reason, but a really good starting point is if the person on the receiving end feels unsafe. If they're feeling unsafe, then it's time to bring in some authorities. And again, depends on the context, because as we all know as well, that in many contexts, it is the authorities that are actually on the harassing side, and so that is not a safe option. So this will only be relevant in a specific context. But that's why the risk assessment and matrix is so important. So again, just to recap on the key takeaways, ensure that top management understands the scale of the problem, define what constitutes online harassment, introduce a standalone harassment policy, consider assigning a designated point person or task force who can actually monitor this and drive this to deal with it when an incident does arise in your organization. Ensure staff and managers are appropriately trained in digital security. It's great to get ahead of the problem so that people are protected. And create and deploy a risk assessment. You also want to ensure that throughout this process that you're communicating this to your team, to your staff, train your managers on this. Once you have something set, ensure that they know how to respond, train the newsrooms. It's really important that everyone has a sense both to know how to react, how to support their teams, and that individual journalists will feel that they are supported and they have recourse when something like this happens. Here are just a couple of resources. I'm not going to go through each one. Again, this presentation is available online, so anyone can go and download it. Please feel free to use it liberally. And please feel free also to get in touch with me if you want to discuss further. That's it, I think. I'm going to go down now, or should I go sit here?
As you want.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Melanie. It was really great presentation. I think it's the way I like very practical, up to the point, and going ahead. So I will talk about my case study now. Can we have my presentation? And I will introduce with myself as well then. So we can go, I can go myself. So I also will tell a bit about myself, just to understand who I am. So I'm Inga Sprinje. I'm an investigative journalist from Latvia, and I am co-founder of the Baltic Center for Investigative Journalism. And why I am also here quite often when there are some stories about me in Latvia, because I am also a known face, because I used to work on TV, then my colleagues are presenting me as one of the most respected and most hated journalists in the country. And how I became hated, it was especially COVID time. Like, I assume it was the same everywhere. When we started, write about stories about vaccines and all restrictions, and people were angry and disappointed. And we received a lot of hate, especially because one of the wing of our Investigative Journalism Center is also a fact-checking organization. And we are this official fact-checker partner also for Facebook. So Facebook is very popular to express anger by people. And when they saw that there is also this notes attached to specific posts made by my fact-checking colleagues saying it's misleading or it's false, people really became angry. And they wanted somewhere to let out all this anger. And somehow it happened that it all went personally to me. Also, I don't do fact-checking, but I'm a face of organization. So it became that most of the hate, mostly online, were directed to me. And it escalated, especially during this COVID time. And the specific case I want to tell you about is about this man who is currently sitting in a prison for stalking me. And I think it's a precedent not only in Latvia and Baltics, at least I haven't heard, I think also in wider region. And I will tell you what happened. How did we get so far that he is sitting now in a prison? So the thing started in 2019. When he actually physically arrived in our office, which is based in Riga, in Stockholm School of Economics. I myself, I don't live in Latvia. I live in neighboring country in Estonia. But I am working online. I am coming on regular basis to Riga to work with my colleagues. And this was one day in our WhatsApp chat where we all discuss our daily working issues. Colleagues said, what just happened? A man tried to get into our office with the funeral flowers and with some kind of vodka type bottle. And they were really shaken. You can feel it. And thanks God, we had also Ukrainian colleagues sitting in office like a man. So he just pushed out this man, so forced him to leave. And otherwise, I don't know what my women colleagues would have done. There were two there at that time. So what we did afterwards, we informed the security guard on the first floor, and we called for police because we saw that this is a very serious situation when someone is coming actually and like in a way expressing threats. And only later then we discussed that this man already before online on Facebook, he has been saying and expressing threats to us, calling us like all names like what usually disappointed men especially are saying, especially towards women. And he had also said that he is planning to come and to meet me and that he wants to meet me. But I didn't see it, I didn't receive because apparently I had blocked him already before because there were so many hates, so I blocked these accounts. But it all came out now when police arrived and we started to investigate who is he and what is he doing. And at the same time, we also discovered that he has been harassing also many other public figures, which he thought are saying wrong things, like other journalists, doctors, university teachers, for example. So I wasn't the only target, but I was the only target when he really physically kind of arrived in this case. So police started criminal investigation. It took some time, and then they closed the thing because they said that there is no like real physical threats. And I remember that I was talking with this policeman and I almost started to cry because he said like, you are a public person, you should, how it was, strengthen your emotional resilience. You should be ready that people are saying things about you. You are a public person. And I was like, I started almost crying and I said, you don't understand how it is when you are, every call from unknown number, you don't know if this will be from this guy. And he had this particular voice, like, because after this, when he arrived, he started calling me, texting on all possible channels, WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, Facebook. He created the new accounts and he was constantly like trying to get in touch. And also what police said in that case when they closed, that I didn't express particularly that it's unwanted communication. Because I just didn't respond, because this is what we always teach. These guys want attention, you don't engage. So I didn't engage. But now police turned it against me by saying, you didn't say explicitly that this is unwanted communication, please stop it. They closed this. After they closed this investigation, so it took some months, the guy again started threatening us. And he started sending to Rebaltica's email, some kind of different strange emails, and again attacking me on different social media accounts, like trying to get in touch. In this time, I already knew because I also wrote about it publicly on social media, and other journalist colleagues also started coming to me by saying what has happened. And once, for example, we had another journalist, he had been walking on the street with his wife and a small child, and this guy with his friends was talking on the other side of the street. They saw him, they went to him, started like, there was almost like fight at the end, like he started shouting something, there was small baby for this other journalist. So I thought, no, it's not normal. So we collected like, we hired in this case lawyer. It was partly pro bono. They agreed to help the journalists. We wrote like really like joint kind of this application for police. We submitted. It seemed kind of promising because now there were like more already like kind of evidence. But still, after a time, police closed the case by saying again, there is no evidence, we can't prove anything. And I don't know, maybe I'm too much in conspiracy theory, but it was the police department about whom a week before we published investigation how bad they are doing their job in sexual abuse case. So I don't know, you never know. So they closed it again, and then in 2021 another accident happened. This man, it's a politician in this in this picture. So what happened, this stalker, he was waiting him to come out of parliament, and he was filming, broadcasting Facebook Live, how he's asking nasty questions to politicians and keeping them accountable. Like it wasn't his understanding what is he doing. And this time it really like created like a huge backlash from society. All journalists, like really in public broadcasters, started to write about it. We had also like politicians in parliament who kind of support journalism, understand what does it mean. They even like invited them for the specific committee hearing police representatives and asked why you don't do anything. And I still remember this quote because everyone was angry about this. That police woman said, But everyone, when we are angry, we can say some nasty things. It just slips out of you. It just by accident. And I tweeted like, by accident, during 2 years, tens of messages slips out by accident. It's just outrageous. But it was like really, really curious, like really huge backlash. Society, politicians, journalists all were angry, so police were forced to do something. And in this case, they started against criminal investigation, against about my case, because I think they have spent some time and built already materials. So I think I was just taken as example in this case. And in this case, it proceeded very quickly. Like police did very quickly their job. I think it in 3 months was at the prosecutor's office, then it went to court. And only now in this third case, prosecutor who was responsible for this case, he requested like all this information from phone companies. And then we only discovered that this man over, I think it's my next slide. No, over the next, during these 2 years, he had sent me, for example, 100 text messages, like on a phone, not like WhatsApp, but just phone messages. I never received them because I had blocked them. Because after second investigation, when it was closed down, during second investigation, I wrote this man, I said, I don't want communication from you. I learned from my mistakes. And then I blocked him. And apparently only now I know that if I have blocked someone, the person doesn't know it. So he is continuing sending me text messages. And now from phone company, we discovered that he has sent me over a time period like 100 these text messages. But it came only now after 2 years of all this pressure when police properly started doing their job. And so this guy was sentenced. He received the maximum fine for this crime in Latvia, and it's 2 months imprisonment. But because he was already out on probation for another crime, he had police found the marijuana in his possession. So he was sentenced for this, but he was released on probation. Now he committed another crime because of stalking me. So he received 2 months for stalking me and also 2 years for the crime he committed before. So now he's sitting in a prison for 2 years and 2 months. So it all summed up. So what I learned during this process, and also with the help of my colleagues and experiences from other attacked people, it's a lot about evidence, how you collect evidence. So at first time when we asked police to start investigations, they asked like submit all evidence. And also it doesn't say much good about Latvian police, but they asked us even to take in a flash drive videos of this guy saying something on Facebook, because apparently in the police office where I went, and I also had to give testimony, they didn't have proper internet connection. So they just couldn't see Facebook. We needed to submit in a flash drive. And it also, I think, shows something about professionality, that in Latvia, police job is underpaid. I don't want to offend anyone, but there are not people with a lot of life experience and professional experience. So I think it also was one of the explanations why they didn't why they were not more active at the beginning. So collect evidence. All text messages, take screenshots of all of them. Also these YouTube videos which are coming, everything you need to document, because you will need to show that it's in masses. That it's not only one-time event when something slipped out of his mouth or he just accidentally wrote some wrong message. Then also my first mistake was police asked, did you feel threatened when the guy arrived in the office? I said like no, because I was in Tallinn. I didn't feel physically threatened. I felt emotionally like affected by all this what happened, but I don't sit in Riga. I didn't feel physically. It was also used as excuse when they shut down the first investigation by saying, but she told herself that she didn't feel physically threatened. So next time, on second time, when we submitted like this application and request start investigation, I wrote that I and my colleagues, we feel physically in danger because of this man. Then, like I mentioned, you need to collect all these screenshots because you need to show that it was in masses. It wasn't just one accident. We did also report on Baltic country level about legislation regarding this. And for example, in Lithuania, there is this rule that there had to be at least 3 cases when the person tried to get in touch. So you would start to count it as systematic, attack on you. So that's why also it's important to show that there were like many messages over kind of longer time period. And the most important, I think, like also Kenya will say the same, and everyone from you as well would know, that you need this support. If you are just alone and you will write something, it will not have so much power as if you have like all journalism community standing behind you and you all are pressuring. Already after the first incident happened, we actually organized Latvian Journalism Association meeting with the police chief. And he was like, yes, yes, it's important issue. We will somehow we will appoint like a person with whom you can get in touch when something like this happened. They kind of appointed the person, but we never found out who is the person. So we were not able to get actually in touch. But we kept doing this pressure all the time on them. And then on like a more like individual level, what you can do, like already Melanie showed, block and mute. At first, when I received all these attacks, not from this guy, but also in general, I muted them because I thought I will not see, it will not affect me emotionally. But then I realized that these guys are coming, and this is also what trolls' goals are. They want also to scare away from me like normal people, so I can't have like sources or normal conversations. I don't see nasty things they're writing about me, but my followers see these nasty things. So now my strategy, I am blocking them so they just can't come. I keep my mental space clean, and I also don't allow them to engage with my conversation with my people who support my work and like what I'm doing. At the same time, I have a fake account both on Twitter and Facebook from which I don't tweet or I don't use it, but from time to time I go just to see what's happening in other world, what they talk about me, what they think about me, just to be informed what's happening. And it's also useful for my journalistic job. Then from time to time what I'm doing, public shaming. So what do? I take a screenshot and I publish it. But here you should be also like careful. You should understand the person who is attacking you, because I don't think I would, this particular guy, I wouldn't publish his because I saw that this is what he wants. He wants this attention. He would be just happy that I engaged and I posted screenshot. But what I have done before, I see that sometimes really, I wouldn't call it like maybe online, like long-term harassment, but I can see that some person has written like something nasty about me, and I check who is the person, and I see it's like a family man. You know, there are photos with the family members, and then I'm thinking, now these guys, I want you to give some lesson. If you are attacking me and you think that you can spit on me all the time, then I will do the same with you, and be responsible for the words you are saying. You just can't come and say everything you want about me. So I take screenshot and I publish it. And once on my Facebook, I also tagged the workplace of the guy who wrote a nasty message to me. And I have done it twice. And once this guy sent me apology, please take it down. I learned my lesson. But this is a bit like different. It's like kind of normal person, not like these professional trolls or harassers. And for a mental level, take a break, because it affects mind. And you know, if you will tell to someone who is not experiencing the same, people usually say, oh, don't take it seriously, don't take it personal. You don't take it personal. It affects you. If you see some nasty things about you, we are human beings, and it affects emotionally. So think what I have learned from time to time, you need to, I just don't publish something for a while, or very rarely I go. In Latvia, particularly very nasty, it's a Twitter. I just don't go on Twitter for a while. But I don't back off. I don't shut down my account. I've had such thoughts, but I thought no, because this is what they want. They want to silence us. This is like what also you showed, like every third woman, when you leave, it's because if you can't dare all this harassment. And I'm like, no, God, no way. I'm not going to give you this pleasure. I will be the pain in your ass, and I will say what I'm thinking about particular things. So I will not give up. And I think that's all what I wanted to tell to you. Thank you very much. And last thing, of course, this all can apply if you live in a country which has democracy. And Latvia, we have problems with democracy and police and so on, but of course it can work. But I know there are many countries where it's way more complicated and difficult. And I think, Kenya, you already like example for a country where democracy is not so strong word. So thank you. Hi.
Hello, my name is Kenia Velasquez. I am a Mexican journalist and I live in Guanajuato. one of the states with the highest homicide rates in Mexico. For 32 years, this region has been governed by the conservative National Action Party, which also controls the Congress and the judicial power. In 2019, my partner and I founded PopLab after leaving the media we built for 7 years because we were asked to stop criticizing the governing party and the newly elected governor. When we published our first report, there were attacks to take down the site, which failed. Then the plan changed, and a group of trolls began following us with two goals: to attack us and to defend the Attorney General. The harassment I face has not been directly because the work I done, but because of my partner's work. He has frequently written question this guy, the State Attorney General, who has been in the office since 2009 and will continue until 2028, thanks to a legal reform. At first, the harassment is face-centered of my appearance, my relationships, and making allusions to my sexual life. Then they try to discredit my work. I cover food health, so their strategy was to pull up all tweets where I mentioned that I ate pizza or candies, and they sent to my allies, to sponsors, to prize. I've been a finalist, and for other people that are interested in these topics I cover. They also create a public list in which critical journalists and human rights activists were named huachicoleros. Huachicoleros are people who steal fuel. Their plan was to make it seem like we are criticizing the state attorney because we were on the side of organized crime. So the local journalism protection program suggests we report it. This is my report, which evidently solved nothing because the one is in charge is who was harassed me. Yes. So we got the opportunity with Connectas to make an investigation about the state attorney. And when we were about to start, a new Twitter account messaged us claiming to be worried about us and let us know that the state attorney was spying on us and show us the screenshots of our chats. During the investigation, this account let us know that the attorney know who we meet with, if we made requesting information, even if it was anonymous, that he knows that we are who made it. They used to sign off saying, "Take good care of you," which sounded like a warning to us. So something I learned is don't downplay. However, it was the first thing we did. We did not give it enough importance in a country with so many murder and missing journalists. Online harassment seems like a minor thing, but it's not. Talking with other journalists in many states of Mexico, we see how this harassment causes jobs or sponsorships to be lost, which causes their economic situation to be precarious. In our case, we saw not only the amount of message grow, but the creation of videos and memes that could appear at any time. When they tried to link us to criminal groups, we knew we had to act. When the authorities harass you, the only allies are other media and organizations dedicated to protect journalists, like Article 19 and Social TIC. These organizations, along with others, made an analysis of the attacks and helped us to create a lot of noise and bring public attention to show how, in a state with so much violence, the authorities were more concerned with attacking their critics. They also review our computers and phones to see how the espionage was carried out. Well, this was a topic we discussed a lot with the team, but after publishing the report about the state attorney with Connect Us, we decided to attend the press conference held every morning by the Mexican president, who is a different political party than the one that governs in my state. The idea was to speak of the harassment and espionage on a national network and show the situation we were living. And it was a success because not only the president asked for investigate the situation, he also criticized very hard the prosecutor. Doing this caused the harassment stop, as the state attorney became a topic of interest of other media. So lots of people associated us with the president political party. They say we are their fans. So we knew that we would prove our independence with our work, but it was something we had to do for our safety. Well, the first step is accepting that this has a mental impact. The adrenaline and alert mode that are activated with being harassed sometimes does not allow us to measure how it's impacting to us. The urgency to do technical reviews or everything that involves reviewing security measures do not leave much for myself, and it should be part of the protocol. One day I surprised myself by getting on one when I heard a Twitter notification. So I went to the organization Vita Activa that helped me during this process. I always joke when somebody said me if I need to check my double verification or instead of the technical things, and I always say I prefer to go to a spa because sometimes we just need a break in order to keep going. Finally, I think that as a guild, we must demand the platforms guarantee us security. When we request a verification, we have to prove our identity and that we are journalists, but apparently we have no warranties. When I was being harassed, I talked with some CEOs from Twitter, and they told me, it's evident these accounts want to disturb you, but we cannot attack their freedom of speech. What these platforms do not realize is that by silencing us or our work is not only silence our freedom of speech, it's in risk the right to know of the people. Because what we share is journalistic work that follows a process, and our detractors only insult and defame. So, well, to wrap this up, I must say the harassment against me was stopped, and investigation against my partner was initiated for making threats, which was closed after we started a campaign on social media to denounce the judicial harassment. We cannot sign victory yet, but we do know we we will keep fighting to do our jobs, and we are determined that this harassment by the authority does not steal our peace or stop us doing our life work. Thank you.